Last year there were 10 different winners in Formula 2. One of those winners was a champion, another one graduated to Formula 1 and another one is Theo Pourchaire. Theo won his home race in Monaco last year and won the first sprint race in Italy as well. Next year he will drive Formula 2 again, most likely with ART, and in this video I will talk about the incredibly talented Frenchman who also impressed in Formula 3, and I will tell where I think Theo will end up. Theo Pourchaire is an 18-year-old French Formula 2 driver who started go-karting back in 2012 and won 4 championships in France in between then and 2016. Back then, as you can see here, Theo was already using his yellow helmet and he kept using that into cars, stepping into French Formula 4, driving in the junior class as he was actually still too young to be classed in the main drivers championship. Had he been allowed to compete in here, he would have finished in the top 3 and of course he won the junior class. In 2019 he stepped up to ADAC Formula 4 to drive with US Racing alongside Arthur Leclerc. His biggest rival was the current Formula 3 champion Dennis Hauger. The season came down to the last race and Theo was the one who came out on top with a 7 points gap as he won his first single-seater championship, being 16 years and a month old. It was not time for Theo to sit down yet as he went straight into Formula 3 post-season testing. He drove with both Carlin and ART GP, but it was clear ART was his destined team as the team was French as well, which was maybe not the biggest factor, but it surely played a role. When Formula 3 finally started in Austria in July 2020, Theo had to adjust to the new car for a weekend, only qualifying 20th and not scoring any points. In the second weekend in Austria, he won his first Formula 3 race, becoming the youngest winner in Formula 3. Next weekend in Hungary, Theo won his first feature race, gaining 3 places on a very chaotic opening lap. After a safety car and a red flag, Theo won the race by an astonishing 11 seconds, only having driven 14 real racing laps. In the next 3 rounds in Great Britain and Spain, Theo finished on the podium once. At Silverstone and at Spa, Theo qualified and finished second for the first race and scored some points in race 2 as well. But then, with 2 rounds to go, being 5th in the championship with a gap of around 50 points, Theo entered Italy, and this is where we saw some real magic by the young Frenchman. After setting the fastest time in qualifying, he was issued a 5-place grid drop for unnecessarily blocking other drivers for race 1, starting 6th because of that. Theo got into the lead a few laps in, but it was eventually hunted down by Frederick Vesti, who would take the win, with Theo finishing second. Theo was very frustrated not to have won, and because of that his desire to perform in the second race was immeasurable, and after being dropped down to 17th due to this accident on the second lap, Theo made a comeback which I won't forget for a very long time.
Theo Pourchaire. Theo Pourchaire up to 4th. Here's Theo Pourchaire, who at one point was 17th. He's now onto the podium.
Theo finished on the podium in both races, leading to him pushing his way up to 3rd in the championship, shrinking his points deficit to 24 behind number 1 Oscar Piastri, meaning Theo had a real chance on the championship if both Sargent and Piastri had bad last weekends. It started positive for Theo as both Prema drivers had grid penalties for Mugello. Theo started 7th in race 1 and passed championship rival Sargent as well as Sandelli and Fittipaldi, and Pourchaire finished on the podium in P3 again, meaning he would start the final race from 8th, only having a 9 points deficit to Piastri and Sargent, who were both on 160 points. Sargent started 5th, but Piastri had the worst starting position, being P11 on the grid. Before I will tell how this exciting finale turned out, I would love it if you want to subscribe to my channel and like this video. Then, on the first lap, luckily for Theo, Logan crashed in turn 2, but Piastri had a good start as well, leading to the 2 remaining title contenders battling each other on track for a brief moment. After the restart after a safety car due to Logan's crash, Pourchaire instantly passed Piastri and started his fight up the order. Oscar, however, had a horrendous start and only dropped places, being in 9th for most of the race. Theo was able to fight all the way onto the podium to P3, which meant he unfortunately wasn't the champion as Piastri finished 7th and took the championship title. Everyone agreed Theo had put up an amazing title fight in Italy and it was clear he would be progressing up to Formula 2. But before there was any post-season testing, Theo debuted in Formula 2 already as he drove the final 2 race weekends with HWA Race Lab. It was mostly just to gain some experience, just like Novalak or Doohan has done this year. It's a good way to get used to the car a bit if you can afford it. Pourchaire didn't finish higher than 18th and his engine blew up as well in the race, and in the post-season tests Theo tested with ART as he would drive the entirety of 2021 with them as well. In the first weekend in the first race, Theo started on pole position and was driving second until his car gave up on him on lap 13. This meant he would start from the back for race 2 and Theo finished 6th and 8th in the remaining 2 races. The next weekend in Monaco was a special one for Theo as it practically was his home race, living only half an hour away from Monaco. Theo was incredibly driven to perform and put in a magnificent, very satisfying lap in quali to take pole by 4/10. In the first two races he simply didn't make any mistakes and finished 7th and 4th when the, for Theo, most important feature race of the year was about to start. Theo got away decently, and after driving 42 laps on the Veert streets, he won the Formula 2 feature race at the Monaco Grand Prix, which meant he was elevated to 3rd in the Formula 2 championship. I would say this was the weekend where everyone in Formula 1 became familiar with the name Theo Pourchaire. Next round in Baku, Theo qualified 4th and finished 5th and 9th in the first two races after having to go for a front wing change in race 2 due to an incident on lap 1. In the feature race he started 4th as he qualified there, but after being pushed into the path of Ticktum and Armstrong, the three collided into turn 3, an incident which broke Theo's wrist, making it unsure whether he would be able to drive the next round in Silverstone. Luckily he was able to do so, but he crashed in practice and this made qualifying a very difficult task for him, but somehow he managed to qualify 5th, finishing in the same place in race 1. In both race 2 and the feature race he had a bad start and collected P10 and P8 at the end. In the next round in Italy, Theo would regain a part of his form from 2020 on the Monza track. He qualified 7th and won the first sprint race after a daring move on Yuri Vips and some very good race pace, leading by 5 seconds over the finish line. Race 2 was worse as he was passed quite a few times on the final laps, finishing 10th, and in the feature race he finished just out of podium places in P4. At Russia, Theo had another good quali, ending in P3. In the only sprint race, due to the second one being cancelled, he finished 5th, and in the feature race Theo ended on the podium in P2 after an all-race battle with Oscar Piastri. Going into the break of more than 2 months, Theo was in 5th in the championship as he hoped to maybe get into the top 3 with some luck as he qualified 3rd again in Saudi Arabia. He would have another good chance of scoring some nice points, but in sprint race 1 he unfortunately crashed though, a mistake which was completely his own fault, and Theo would be the first one to admit that. After starting 19th he had a great race too, and that combined with crashes ahead he eventually finished 6th. In the feature race though he didn't get off the line at the start and was hit from the back by a very fast approaching Enzo Fittipaldi. This resulted in a 72G impact for the Brazilian, which was more than Max Verstappen witnessed at Silverstone. Enzo wasn't able to race in the final weekend, but after both drivers were in the hospital, Theo was able to race in the final race weekend at Abu Dhabi, where he qualified 6th but had bad starts all weekend, most likely being cautious due to the shock of Saudi Arabia. This resulted in Theo only finishing 7th and 9th in the sprint races and 4th in the feature race, a great result considering he was in hospital on Monday and drove again on Friday. Theo finished the championship in 5th place and will be the highest placed driver to return to the series in 2022. I'm 95% sure he will drive with ART again, as he also did the post-season tests with the French team. I'm expecting Theo to really put up a title fight in next year's 14-round long Formula 2 season, where he will probably fight against the likes of Liam Lawson and Dennis Hauger, both former rivals from Formula 3 or Formula 4, but where will Theo end up? He obviously has links with the Sauber team or the Alfa Romeo team, however you want to call it, being their main focus in the junior academy, and though if he will progress to Formula 1 it will most likely be with them, and as Guan Yu Zhao is most likely only on a 1-year deal, Theo will give his all to convince the team to drop the money for the better talent, let's be honest. Although that will probably be a really difficult task. It's sure Theo has the qualities to drive in Formula 1, and if he is able to consistently perform next year just like Oscar Piastri did this year, I think there will be quite a chance he gets a seat, or he will end up in a situation Oscar is currently in, being in a reserve driver role. I really hope he will get to F1, and I will continue to support him in the years to come, and I hope to have informed all of you over the space of this video. Let me know what you think about Theo and his chances on Formula 1 in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe as well. I hope to see all of you later on my channel. Bye bye!